So we're down at Moorlands Farm today, and it's, as you know, it's winter time, and I want to talk to you about fishing the short line. So many people go straight out to 13 metres when you're missing all the fish that are in front of you. And these short fish tend to be the bigger fish, and I want to run through today and show you how to catch them. The great thing about this short line is that it's 5 to 6 metres maximum, and it's nice because you can throw bait to it rather than, you know, keep pulling back and cupping it in. Whereas if you're fishing 13 metres, if you're not really accurate with your catapult or whatever, that's why this short line is so good for your pleasure anglers and anglers are at different levels. You know, when I do coaching down here, it's great because it's a nice method and easy to teach them. So how do I find the best spot to fish? First of all, I use a 30 gram plummet because it's a real heavy plummet, and I want to find, you know, so it's nice and hard as I'm going down. So as you're going down the shelf, you'll find the bottom of the shelf, right? And then I like to use a foot square so I know it's flat. And then you can easily just come back up the shelf a little bit so you know you're on the bottom, fishing probably 2 or 3 inches on the bottom. So you want to try and avoid fishing the silt. That's why I use a heavy plummet. So when I go out further and when I drop my rig in, it's obviously a heavy plummet, so it'll go into the silt wherever the silt is. You want to try and avoid that if you can. Obviously, a lot of fisheries have been there a long time and they're full of silt. But try and come back to find where it's a hard bottom. You just want to keep plumbing up where your plummet isn't stuck in the silt. I like to start my session off by loose feeding casters. Why? Because I think there's such a fantastic bait in the winter and it catches every single fish from the F1s, roach, wood, whatever. I would probably feed 4 to 8 casters every few minutes just to keep the bait going in, but also rather than, you know, big handfuls, they just won't come in your peg. Their metabolism changes and they don't feed as much. So if you've got bait trickling in, it's a lot more effective. As for rigs, the smaller float you use, the better. You'll get more bites on it and the fish won't feel it when they're pulling the bait under. I like to use a real sensitive float, which for me is the SF1. It's got a 1mm bristle, but the great thing about it is that depending on the light, you can take the tips out and you can change them. Black, yellow, orange. It's perfect for fishing, whatever condition you're using. How I fasten my floats to the line is with 3 rubbers, because the last thing you want to do is when you're striking and your float moves 1/2 mil, you might not be fishing on the bottom then. And that might be the difference between you catching fish and not, because if you're striking and you're 5 mil every time you strike or over a period of an hour, you're off the bottom, and that's the difference between you catching fish and not catching fish. Shotting wise, I'm a big believer in fish watch your bait, whether you're fishing on the bottom or when you're fishing shallow. They're watching your bait falling. So if you've got strung out shot or if you're fishing a bulk on the bottom, so when you're lifting and dropping, so don't just leave your float sitting there. You lift and drop your bait, they see it moving and then they'll have it. It's a good tip, that is, to say, you know, don't just leave your float sitting there. As for hooks, I'm getting to that age now where my eyesight isn't as good as it used to be. So I like to use the hand-tied acolyte, which is a silverfish hook tied to a fluorocarbon. They're absolutely fantastic. So this is how I take them off. I always grab the hook first, just pull it down slightly, take that off, and there you go. Perfect hook, ready to go. Accuracy is very important, and the good thing about fishing short is that you can be more accurate, I think, which is what I'll show you. When you're fishing a catapult, depending on what catapult pouch you're using, your bait can go everywhere. But when you're fishing short, you can literally pinch of casters and literally throw them, and you can be right on top of your bait. Whereas if you're fishing further out, you might not be as accurate. So it's a great thing fishing short, because you can be more accurate a lot with your bait, of which I will show you in a few minutes. Well, I'm just baiting up, just threading a caster on the hook, and I'm going to show you how we just chuck the bait in. Just nice and steady, just lower that in there. Got like, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 casters straight over the top. Nice little flick. Just cock that float so it's nice, sitting nicely. Just a few casters over the top like that. Bosh. Here we go. Straight away. Just lovely fishing. And obviously as that's gone under then, and the casters are still sinking. So by the time I get back out there again, them casters are going to be on the bottom, ready and waiting. Right, just lower the rigging, let that settle nicely. A few casters, just an underarm flick, but don't worry if the casters go past your bait. It's not a drama. What you're doing is you're creating a nice bed of bait in the area that you're fishing. And like me, I fish with, you know, a decent lash, probably a foot and a half there, and I like to flick my rig past, just do a little lift and drop there, just to try and entice the fish. There's a bite straight away. So I mean, I've just moved my bait off the bottom, and that has enticed a fish to have a go at it. You just leave your bait just sitting there, I don't think. You catch fish, but you know, for me it's about moving it. I've got a lovely bream on here. Oh, nice, yeah. Bream skimmer. It's probably £1.5 pounds. Lovely fish that is. All just moving the float. Today's session's gone really like clockwork, really. I mean, it's been fantastic. It's took a while to get the fish in the peg, as it does. They're not always coming to your peg. Obviously, it's winter, so they do take a bit of time to come in. My best line's been on the short line, loose feeding casters over the top, lifting and dropping just to move that bait off the bottom, because they do get wary, they do sit there. And so, like I said earlier, please move your float every 30 seconds. Just lift and drop, just to get them or antagonise them fish into feeding.